What's up guys, welcome to new Unreal Engine 5 tutorial. With the release of Unreal Engine 5.6, we've got a bunch of new templates that can kickstart your projects. So I decided to create a mini series where we'll take those templates, break them down, and customize them to build full games faster. In this fourth episode, we are diving into the SideScroller template. I will show you how to get started, what's included, and how to start making it your own. It's going to be a very easy video to follow, so let's get started. Alright, so in order to create a new SideScroller template in Unreal Engine 5.6, you just have to go to the Unreal Project browser, select the third person template, and then under the variant, select the SideScroller. And that's it, you just hit create. And here it is, the new SideScroller map. So first things first, let's hit play and see what we actually have in this template. So as you can see, first things first, we have a simple character movement on one axis, so we can go only to the right or to the left. We got a smooth camera movement that follows the player with some smoothness, so it looks kind of cooler. We got some double jump, we got some platforming, and we can, as you can see, go over layers, right? But then not go down other layers like in Mario or things like that, which is pretty cool. We can also start to do this here. We got like a wall jump pretty much, yep. We got a wall jump, which is quite cool. We have physical objects that we can push, so now we can go through. We got pickups, which could be anything like coins or, you know, power-ups. We got enemies, which I don't know, yeah, it doesn't have anything. But yeah, we can kind of just go around. We got triggers that activate something, like in this case, a platformer. And that's it. We have the end, which doesn't execute anything, but that's pretty much it. So this is the new SideScroller template. As you can see, it is pretty cool, pretty amazing. So let's go ahead and see how this is built. We're gonna break it down and see how you could potentially customize it to kickstart your own games from this template. So first things first, what do we have in the content browser? We're very similar to the other templates, okay? We got a main third person folder and then the variant folder. Under the main third person folder, we have a simple third person character with its own movement. It is essentially the third person character that we all know from before, with a couple of enhancements in 5.6. So literally we have the mesh, camera room, camera, and then the character movement component. And then in the vein graph, we simply have the keys to aim and also move around. But now it is a bit more organized under functions, so it's used a bit better. But that's it. This isn't the third person character that we're using on here in this level. That's why the movement, as you can see if we enter here, is on the two axes, right and forward, okay? Now, if we go to the variant, you will see that we have now another blueprint with another third person character blueprint, which is in this case called the side scrolling. And this one does contain more logic, but limits the character in one axis, so we can only go left and right, which is exactly what we want. Okay, so it's just the third person character, but with a couple of more enhancements, features, and limitations over at the same time. So in the viewport, as you can see, we have everything exactly the same: the camera, mesh, and character movement component. Okay, we don't have any new component, that's it. But main difference is that we go to the move function. As you can see in here, we only have one direction, and we can go left or right with this or over here. But yeah, we cannot go, in this case, forward or back, if that makes sense. We can only go in one axis, that's why, which is perfect for side-scroller games. But then, as you can see, we are also binding here an event on landed. Don't worry about that, we're gonna check it out a bit later. But then when we are possessing the player, so in Unreal, possessing is essentially controlling the player, we check if we are in Android or iOS, essentially in mobile. And if we are, we add like a user interface for the mobile touch kind of, you know, options. But if we are in PC, we don't do anything else. And then we have some inputs that we started to get. So first things first, let's see the interact. So this is an input to interact. Now you're probably wondering, well, where do we add the IMC? the input mapping context with all of these inputs. Well, that is, as you can see on the player controller, if we open up the player controller, you will see that at the begin play, we add the IMC of SideScroller. And an IMC, or input mapping context, contains all the inputs for a specific player. In this case, we have jump, move, interact, and drop. So these are the inputs that we can go ahead and do. As you can see, interactive F, drop is S, move is DNA, and then space is space, right? So I think that if I go to the things here and I press F, I can pick them up or something. I honestly don't know where. Oh, there we go. We push the player. That's pretty cool. So yeah, so there's a couple of interactions. So when we press F in this case, what we do is a sphere trace for objects. A sphere trace is essentially just an invisible sphere that goes from one point to another. We can actually just put it for duration so we can preview it, and then you can see that when I press F, we just do this sphere, and you know, it's just like, hey, anything that is inside of that sphere, we're gonna detect and interact with it. And of course, we're using a function. That way, we don't have to cast to the specific memory reference of an object. We just use an interface, which is this one over here. Now, continuing through here, we have the move player, which we checked, which is this function over here for only one axis, you remember. And then we also have it for the thumbstick, just in case we are on controlling or on the touchpad. Well, actually, it's not controller, sorry, it's only for mobile. So you can see it's getting from the mobile touchpad that we added before. Now, we have here also the jump input, and what does it do? Well, it checks if we can actually move for mobile only. So that's probably because we don't want to jump if we're moving or something similar. So, well, actually it's the opposite if we are actually moving. And then we check for collision. This is exactly the same, but instead of using a sphere trace like for the interaction, we're using a line trace. So now it's an actual line, and if we do this, you'll see nothing happens. Why? Well, that is because we only trigger if the axis is bigger than 0, or the drop is bigger than 0. So in this case, we are not going through there. Apart from that, we also have the jump pads for the touchpad. So if we press something in the mobile, we will also execute that apart from in the IMC, which is important because the IMC only works with key inputs or gamepads, but the mobile works through widgets and interfaces. That's why we have to do it in their own separate way. And it's a bit annoying, but it is what it is, you know. And that's pretty much it. And then for the set soft collision, it's just a simple thing that we activate, which is through C++, as you can see, and we simply just check for specific object type, so we can go through it as we saw while playing the game. Now we also have the thing about if we are grounded, we disregard the advanced jump logic, so we literally do the normal stuff. We jump normally, right? But if we are doing a double jump or we are in air and things like that, we have the option to do the wall jump or double jump. The wall jump is kind of similar to the one that we saw on the platforming template. I would even say that this part is pretty much exactly the same, and we go ahead and do some checks. So we haven't already jumped through the wall, sorry, if we are currently falling, and if we have if we are not still in the air. Okay, if we are, you know, doing all that stuff, we do a line trace by channel, so we detect that we have a wall in front of our player, as simple as that. And then if we have it, well, we simply align the player to the normal of the wall, and then we launch the character forward, okay, which just adds the little impulse and the jump itself. And then we enable has wall jumps, so we cannot jump again in the wall and bug it out, and after a delay we simply go ahead and set it back to false. Now instead, for the double jump, what we do is, well, have we not jumped through the wall? Well, if we haven't jumped through the wall, we can do the double jump, but we also do check if we have already double jumped, so we can only jump twice and once in the air and not like 50 times. You know, this is very important. We simply call the jump again. And on here we do the landed, which was on the top, and then we have here the soft collision, and that's it. So nothing crazy. That's it. That's it. That's pretty much the player controller. There's some basic logic for double jump, wall jump, and interact. Honestly, nothing crazy, super simple. But then over here, we do have some props with their own logic and behavior, and we actually have them all over here. If we go to items, you can see this stuff here. So first of all, we have a two-sided switch, and if you don't remember what this one did, well, we can just go and jump, and then on top we have collision, but if we go to the ground, we don't have collision. So if we go here, you will see that we have a begin overlap. We set the soft collision. This is what we had before, which is a function, an interface, and then basically disables the collision for the player, so we can go through it. And then on the end of overlap, we set it back to false. It's just literally that. And this is the collision. Nothing crazy. And then for the other ones, we do have the same one, two-sided switch. Then we have a physics cube. This is literally a static mesh with simulate physics enabled. That's it. If I were to disable simulate physics, we would not be able to push it. So that's it. It's not even a blueprint. It's just a mesh on the level that we can push. And for some reason, yes, I enabled simulate physics on the wrong mesh. Okay, there we go. Boom, and then we can push it again. So yeah, literally just enabling physics. And then we got the pickups. So let's see how the pickups are done. The pickups are their own little blueprint. So first of all, on the viewport, we have a sphere, which is the model itself, and then the collision to detect and trigger the player. So over here, when we go ahead and begin the overlap, which usually is the player. So if we actually do here, check if it is the player. If it is, we make sure to only do everything once, so we can only collect the item once, so it will not bug out. And then, well, we destroy the collision, so we cannot pick it up again. We go ahead and do the interaction function through an interface to the player, and then we disable the collision, and then we do a little pop-out animation, which is literally a timeline, which changes the scale of this sphere. Literally just does like this, through a timeline, which is pretty cool. And at the end, it just destroys the actor, so it disables and disappears from the whole level. And we can actually check this out. That's how it works. Simple as that. And then last but not least, we have the enemy, the NPC. Very simple, doesn't attack or anything crazy stuff. The viewport is pretty much like the player, but we also have a static mesh instead of a skeleton mesh because, well, it's just simpler. But we also have a character move component to move around. And then we have the interaction where we launch the character, which is what we saw when we press F and we reset it. And then if you're wondering about the movement of the AI, well, we can go to here, search for AI, and then I can scroll down, and you can see that we have its own side-scroller AI class, and we also have a state tree. So a state tree is something kind of new that honestly a lot of people don't know about. It's basically the alternative of behavior trees to make AI. So in Unreal Engine, there are 3 ways to make AI. The first one is purely just blueprints, so there's own actors, then the behavior trees that we all know, and then finally the state trees. The state tree is pretty cool because it's kind of simpler, but even though it looks simpler than behavior trees, it gets more time to get the concept of. But in this case, super simple. If it's active, well, we simply follow the player and then wait delay of in this case 0.16, and if it's deactivated, we just don't do anything. It's a constant delay in a loop. So yes, pretty simple. And if we want to see the actual task, well, we select this here, we can go here and open up. Actually, it's easier if we just open this up. This is the get player. This is how we can actually get the player in the level. So every frame we get a player, put it as a variable, and get the specific distance, and if we can actually go to that target. Simple as that. Target, super simple. And then for this case, we can actually not open it up because it's a default task from Unreal Engine. But basically, it has an AI controller, a destination, or a target actor. So we have a destination, we wouldn't need the target actor, but if we don't have one, we need this one over here. And this is basically the reference to the player that we got on this the other task that we saw. We got the distance, and we can strafe, move around, the basic stuff. So yeah, fairly simple. The AI is super simple, but it works, so it's pretty cool. And then last but not least, now yes, we have the moving platform. So the structure is super simple. We have a cube and a sphere. Well, the cube is actually the mesh, and the sphere is, well, the trigger to detect the player. So if we interact with it or actually go through the trigger, well, we do this once and move to target. And once we move to the target, we do a flip-flop. So first it will do this, and then it will do the opposite. So move to component, that's it. That's what we're doing. So if you don't know what the move to component is, it basically just moves a specific component from its current location to the destination. In this case, the destination is just this platform variable here, which I think is not in 3D. Yeah, it is in 3D. So we could even move this around and it would change. This is pretty cool. Nothing from the other world, but it's actually pretty decent and nice. And that's it. Once we have finished this, we reset the interaction so it can be done again. So the blueprints are fairly simple but really cool, because that means that it's very easy to customize them, to change them, to kickstart your gun games and all that stuff. So now that we have gone through the project, understood how it is broken down and how it works, we can see how we can customize it to go ahead and, well, make our own games. So first things first, let's see how we could change the player's velocity and play a bit about the movement. So if we go here, that will be just on the character mode component. Walk speed, we could put in, like, imagine 2000, right? So this is how we would do it with any character in Unreal Engine, right? So it's nothing crazy, it's literally this, and that's it. Like, we just do it through the character mode component. But yeah, what now if we wanted to change the pickups? Well, super easy. What we would do is find it on here, and we would do a child. Okay, so we'll have all of the logic and behavior inherited, but we could customize the model and things like that. So we could do pickup underscore, and then let's do, for example, cube, right? Well, there we go. We have the child. We now can go ahead and change this to be a cube, and it could be this one, and we could change this to be whatever other stuff it is. And I could go here and put it over here. I'm gonna put this here. And now if I was to press play, I could pick it up as if it was any of the other coins, because the parent is the pickup, which has all of the logic that we saw here. So everything still works, but we're just changing the sphere. And I did a child, so if we change any of the logic for a pickup, we only change it from one place, which is the parent, and all of the childs would automatically get all the changes, if that makes sense. So it's pretty cool. Now, how do we also change, for example, the velocity of this platform? Well, very easy. We go here and we got the move component tool, and this is the move duration, which is the kind of the time that it would take. So we actually have it exposed as a variable, so we could literally put 2, and you will see that it's super fast now. It's fairly simple. Not only that, but you could do a specific rotation too, or have multiple destinations, but that's fairly straightforward, and I don't know why you would do that, so I'm not gonna kind of go through that, but you know, you get me. And for the AI enemy, well, what if you want to change its mesh? Well, we can do exactly what we did with the coins. We just do a child, go over here and do NPC2, and then, well, we could go ahead and disable the mesh and have a cool character, like for example Manny, rotated like this, and we could have, you know, whatever, a nice AI here, and there we go. So yeah, there's a lot of things you could do. Overall, what I recommend to do is to play around with all of these pre-built blueprints that you have and just literally modify them. Create child classes, change the force, things like that. Over here we can also do it from the details panel. Now the force was crazy, right? But yeah, it's fairly simple, right? So that's it, guys. If you found this video helpful, I would really appreciate it if you could like the video and subscribe to my channel. I have gone ahead and reviewed a lot of the new templates in 5.6, so check them out. The links are on the description, and join my Unreal Club if you're serious about learning Unreal Engine 5. And now, yes, with all that said, bye bye.